last night was the first presidential debate for the general election campaign between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Of course, there are other candidates running, particularly the candidate that I intend to vote for, Howie Hawkins, is also running, but is not allowed on the stage to debate with them because of our arcane electoral rules. And so we have we just had a debate between the two major party candidates, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. I think we can all agree. One thing that we could all agree on was it was one of the worst debates in American history. It was just, there was no substance to it whatsoever. There was almost no policy discussed. We watched it here. We did a live stream of it. You could check out the live stream. But honestly, if I'm being real with you, this isn't good business per se. Don't watch that. Like, don't waste your time. Don't watch that. Please don't do that to yourself. Like, you're not going to be any the better for it. There's nothing to gain from having watched that debate last night. It was a miserable 90 minutes. To anyone who, drank some alcohol, took some drugs during the stream, you probably fared better than we did here. I totally understand. I wish I should have done some shrooms for that one or something, because I don't even know. One's mind needed to be tweaked for that thing to get through that comfortably. So it was a shit show, to be honest. I mean, it was 90 minutes essentially of Donald Trump just sort of like talking over Joe Biden, them sort of doing this childish bickering back and forth. After the debates, polling shows that by and large, I think it was around a 70-30 margin. People that watched the debate felt that that Biden won the debate. I saw one great tweet from Frank Luntz, actually. I don't know why did I not queue up a story for this? I should have queued up a story. I'm sorry. It was a long day, busy day, so forgive me. But Frank Luntz tweeted out, he's like a Republican GOP like pollster. He does these what do they call it when they get people together and they focus groups. He does these focus groups. So he's really famous for doing all these focus groups where he'll have voters get together in a room and he'll do this, he'll interview them. He does some during the debates, like a live one during the debates. They have these little dials that they can turn to say when they agree with a candidate more or less, and when something that the candidate says resonates with them. So he's a pollster, and he tweeted out, actually, he said that this is the first presidential debate that he's aware of that independent voters, when they were polled after, there was a significant portion of independent voters who said after watching the debate, they are more likely not to vote. So that debate literally caused some people to say, you know what, fuck it. If this is what we're choosing between, if this is what it is, if this is our choices, I choose none. I choose neither. I choose them all set. I'm going to keep myself safe. I'm not going to risk my health, because this is literally an election that you have to go out and risk your life to go vote for one of these candidates because of the pandemic that we're in the midst of. If you're having to go vote in person, you are literally having to risk your life to go vote in person. Otherwise, you can vote by mail, and encourage people to vote by mail where you can. If you can vote by mail if you can. I mean, I say that though, let me be careful. I shouldn't say that, because I say vote by mail, but then we also know that distrust has been sown in the mail-in balloting at this point by Donald Trump. Unfortunately, he did some of that in the debate last night. It was really, really just, the debate was all around gross. Had some Donald Trump hitting some real fascistic notes with encouraging. He wouldn't agree to he didn't just agree to. They asked him, will you urge your supporters to accept the results of the election if mail-in votes, after all the votes are counted? You won't come out early to try to claim victory early before all the votes have actually been counted, because there's something unique about this upcoming election, which is that this is going to be the first election where we have this is going to be there will be historic mail-in balloting in this upcoming election. It will be nothing like anything in history. Many people will be voting by mail in this one, and there are multiple states in this country, unfortunately, that have rules that say that you are not allowed to begin counting votes until election date. So even though many mail-in, tens, hundreds of thousands of votes will be received before election day. Some people have already started voting. Let's be clear about that. In some states here in Massachusetts, you can already have requested a mail-in ballot and you can already be voting right now. So you can many states have already started voting. Offices will be, town clerks, and they'll be receiving ballots for the next few weeks in a lot of states. But in some states, some of them are key battleground states, mind you. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, none of those states can begin counting ballots until the day of the election. So until the polls close. So they have to wait until after the polls close to begin counting votes. So that means that you're talking about before they could do it was okay for them to not start counting those mail-in ballots necessary. And those mail-in ballots, there are oftentimes it's trickier. It's a longer process to count the mail-in ballots than it is to count the regular ballots, because there are just additional steps like the envelopes and the types of, there's a second envelope in some cases, an inner envelope, an outward envelope. There can be a lot of instances of mail-in voter suppression, people's ballots getting tossed out essentially. So Donald Trump was asked, will you urge your supporters to not vote, will you urge your supporters to wait until the ballots are done being counted in order to declare a winner? Donald Trump said, wouldn't agree to that basic notion. And then just said that instead it was encouraging people to go out to the polls and watch the polls, and I mean, he at one point straight up said they asked him to condemn white supremacy. He wouldn't do it. And then he even said something like, Proud Boys stand down and stand by, as if he, and then said something about Antifa, as if he was saying that, that sounds like a direct order from your general there. He sounded like he was the leader of, and if for folks who aren't familiar, Proud Boys is a white supremacist organization, right-wing, obviously right-wing when you say white supremacist, I believe, although, right-wing, white supremacist organization. And they were, he's out here saying stand down and stand by. Whoa, what do you stand by? What? That is some frightening shit right there. So you had that, and then you had Joe Biden just existing, hanging on. People said he came across as presidential. I mean, people were pleasantly surprised by how Joe Biden did. That was one of the things one of the issues we talked about going into the debate was that there was all this talk. Donald Trump had spent so much time talking about Joe Biden's senility and incompetence that it had set the bar so low for Joe Biden that people were surprised to see him just do okay, right? I mean, they did this test after the election, and they polled people, and they were asking them what were the words that the first name one word that comes to mind about each candidate. And some of Donald Trump's were unhinged, bully, just those sorts of whatever, and then for Biden, it was politician, presidential, competent. Coherent was one. Coherent. So it was well, he's coherent at least. So I think that people were by and large it's seen as Biden having won the debates. I think that honestly, the initial takeaway that I had was that Trump would have been seen as the winner because of stylistically he sort of trampled over everything that Biden was saying. But it seems like the voters that watched, they were, it's going to be a sort of more, I believe, moderates watching, maybe some far, right folks. I don't think you got a whole bunch of leftists watching the debates. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see a crowd that cares more about sort of the decorum, civility politics, that sort of thing. And so this seen as like, well, Trump was being rude and interjecting and not giving Biden a chance to speak. So it was just a lot of nonsense. And we all came out. We were all the real losers, as I said last night. I think the real losers of the debate were everybody who had to watch it. So that was the debate. You can check out our coverage on it from yesterday, but honestly, just don't do it to yourself. Don't waste your time. There was no substance. Honestly, I mean, I took notes. I took pages and pages of notes and throughout it, and I was watching and waiting to hear any mention of policy. And I noted every time I heard a policy mentioned, and I'm telling you, it was like maybe 1 minute total was spent saying words about policies, anything that could be related to a policy. The only concrete policy I think Joe Biden talked about was raising the corporate tax from 21% to 28% during the bit on the economy. But it was, by and large, substance free. It was just totally just an act of spectacle and no substance, all spectacle, no substance. And I think that favors Joe Biden because Donald Trump is losing in the polls right now on the national averages in the polls. He's down by 7 points at this stage in the 2016 election. Hillary Clinton was only up by about 3 points, 2.9 percentage points. So he's more than doubling Hillary Clinton. He's doubling Barack Obama's total from 2012. So there is, you have a situation where this is a very unique circumstance that we're under. Biden is significantly ahead in these polls. And I know everyone will be like, well, polls can't be trusted. But the polls last time in 2016 were actually pretty accurate. It turned out that it was within the margin of error is what we ultimately saw. It was just that the polls just didn't, the end result was actually within the margin of error of the polling averages. So, and even in those like 538 estimates and stuff, when they say like, Hillary Clinton has a 70% chance of winning or 80% chance of winning, that doesn't mean 100%. So even those like estimates, those models that they use to try to calculate the probability of one candidate winning, those also have it's not 100% ever. And so the polls here these are significant. I was one that was saying for a while that, Donald Trump had a real chance at this thing. At this stage, I think that it will take something shocking. The so-called October surprise would have to be very surprising here. And I just think that Joe Biden's been in the public eye for decades. We already know all the terrible things about Joe Biden. I don't think that there's going to be any new type of oppo dumps that they can really do for Joe Biden. I don't see anything massive happening here. And I think that Joe Biden will sort of coast to a victory in November at this stage. So that's what I believe will happen. I think that, everyone's wary of trying to make predictions. Nobody wants to look like a fool saying that Donald Trump has no chance, especially while he's the incumbent president. That would just be foolish. There's always a chance. Joe Biden isn't doing anything. His voters aren't very sticky. There's not a lot of enthusiasm behind his voters. And we have a convoluted electoral college system that can always end up, shocking us all. And so Joe Biden is 100% going to win the popular vote. There is 0% chance that Joe Biden loses the popular vote. The question is, will he win the electoral vote? That's what really matters. The scary thing, because of what we talked about earlier with those mail-in ballots, is that we could have a scenario where on election day at the end of the night, Donald Trump looks like he's up by a comfortable margin. And then as those mail-in votes begin to get counted, Joe Biden pulls ahead with a lead. And that would create a, hysteria amongst Trump supporters. I think that if it goes in the other direction, those results will be accepted and that will be fine. If Biden is up in the lead and then Donald Trump comes from behind and wins with the mail-in vote, I think that would be accepted by both sides. I think that because I think you got generally rational people, generally speaking, in the Democratic Party at this stage. I think there is a base of the GOP, of the Republican Party, where you have the far right sort of Trumpist extremists who are going to have a lot of difficulty accepting the results of this election, even if it's a clear win for Joe Biden. I think that there's a set of them. Not that that should, deter anyone from voting and doing whatever you feel is right in this upcoming election. You go, you make that happen. You do what you got to do.